morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to go taking a look at Scizor V. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, Scizor's getting a V card. Now, to be fair, Scizor is one of these Pokemon that generally does get the special cards. We had Scizor EX and Mega Scizor EX, and we got Scizor GX and all of that. So we probably should have been expecting a Scizor V, and we do get one. And I'll be honest with you, it kind of does pretty much exactly what we would expect it to. Yeah, funny how Pokemon seem to come around like that. Now, we start off having a look at the basics. We got 210 HP, which isn't fantastically high for a Pokemon V, but it's not embarrassingly low, so call it a draw on that one. We've got a retreat cost of 2, which means if you want free retreat, might I suggest using a bit of the old air balloon. Now, we do have a resistance to grass here, which is quite nice. It's not like grass has become some powerhouse typing. Nobody really plays it. Still nice to have a resistance, though. And then we've got a weakness to fire, and to be honest with you, for as long as Welder is around, people are going to want to play fire decks because of the extra consistency that you get. Not terribly, amazingly, brilliantly, wonderfully, awesomely happy that we got a weakness to fire. As for being a metal Pokemon, this is pretty good. It means you got for a very short time Metal Frying Pan to reduce damage done by 30 and lose your weakness. But even when that goes away, we got Metal Goggles to reduce damage done by 30 and stop damage counters. We've got Metal Saucer to accelerate energy from the discard pile to itself. We've got Lucario and Melmetal so that it takes 30 less damage for the rest of the game. There are some nice tricks with Metal Pokemon at the moment. All they're hitting for weakness is Fairy Pokemon or Pokemon that should be Fairy. So maybe something like Gardevoir. The problem is, any Pokemon that's weak to Metal will also be weak to Zacian, and they're unlikely to see much play because they're weak to Zacian, Boo Hiss, etc. Now, the first attack is one we're really excited about here. It is a little bit disruptive and a little bit discardy, which is kind of what Scizor tends to do. What we see here is 1 Metal Energy, 30 damage, discard 1 Pokemon Tool, and 1 Special Energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Oh. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really good. We like this quite a lot. It's not going to do you a huge amount of damage, but it is going to help you out really nicely. Now, time was we had Delmise, a Psychic Pokemon, that allowed you to do an extra 10 damage of all your metal Pokemon, and that was actually really cool for doing extra damage using these metal Pokemon. We no longer have Delmise or a really good replacement for it, or do we? Because we've actually got Galarian Berserker. Now, the thing about Galarian Berserker is that we've actually just gotten the Galarian Meowth that lets you discard a couple cards from your hand and search for a Galarian Berserker. Basically, we've just gone and got ourselves a Galarian Meowth, which is going to allow us to get Berserker out easily, even if we're only actually playing a basic deck. Because generally speaking, right, you want to play a basic deck and rely on Quick Ball. As soon as you start adding an evolution Pokemon, you've got to somehow try and find a way to search them out, and it just gets kind of awkward. But Galarian Meowth's got your back. So now you've got your Galarian Berserker, and this doesn't have to be 30 damage. With 1 Galarian Berserker, it's 50. With 2, it's 70. With 3, it's 90. With 4, it's 110. Wouldn't recommend that one very much. And the point here is that you can actually slow your opponent down massively. Say you're against a Dragapult V Max, for instance. Good deck, very hyped deck. People are loving it. Well, at least for the next kind of 5 minutes until this set comes out over here, then we might feel slightly differently. But that's a deck that really likes using Horror Energy. Special Energy, when it's attached to a Pokemon and you attack them, you take 2 damage counters. You get rid of it with this. Pre-rotation, they're going to want to use Spell Tag to drop extra damage when you KO them. We'll get rid of that. But even post-rotation, they might be playing stuff like Air Balloon, for instance, to try and get themselves free retreats, and you'll get rid of that. They might be using Vitality Band, and then you can get rid of that. This is going to cause some really, really awkward scenarios for your opponent. It's kind of like It's kind of like playing an enhanced hammer and a tool scrapper at the same time, when used correctly. And you can actually make this into a really good energy denial deck. I mean, against something like a Dragapult, they're going to have 2 energy on to use Max Phantom. So if one of them's a horror energy, this attack gets rid of it. And if you play something like a Team Yell Grunt as your supporter for the turn, or you play something like a Crushing Hammer and hit a heads, or a million other things, you can get rid of both their energy in one turn. And one of the things about Dragapult is that they're generally not played with much energy acceleration. Well, the good news is here, you can come in and be like, gutted Dragapult, there goes all of your energy. It's not just an anti-Dragapult attack, incidentally. If your opponent is depending on twin energy, they can only play 4 in their deck, it's likely to be pretty gosh darn good. So you get rid of their twin energy, and then they're not able to attack next turn. Any tool that they're relying on, any energy they're relying on is pretty awesome, any special energy. Unfortunately, you're only getting rid of special energy here, and like I've said, this is very much a Scizor thing to do. It's not the first time we've seen a Scizor along these lines. We might have a quick reminder in a moment, we'll have to have a gander. The point is that what you can do here is really, really slow your opponent down. I don't think Scizor is the kind of Pokemon you're going to be using to take multiple KOs and win the game. I think Scizor is a 1 or 2 of index that you bring out to hurt your opponent and slow them down. I think that's probably where we're going here. We've got a second attack, we'll get there in a moment, but this really is more of a... It's more of a, oh, you're using special energy, I'll get rid of it, now you've got to attach more energy. Oh, you're relying on Air Balloon, well, I'm going to get rid of that, and oh, look, now that I've got rid of Air Balloon, you're stuck in the active and you can't retreat, so that means there's one more turn I'm slowing you down, and then you're really just buying time for a bigger attacker. Maybe it's Zacian. And the fact of the matter is, this first attack on Scizor is 1 metal energy. This will fit into a Zacian deck rather nicely. Doesn't have to, just saying it can. Now, there is a second attack here, and the second attack is fine. Free energy, 140 damage. Weirdly enough, and I don't know if I'm the only one that noticed this, because I spend way too much time looking at cards, it's actually the exact same attack, other than the, energy requirement, that we see on Cinderace V. 2 coloured, 1 colourless energy, 140 damage. The difference is, although I like it on Cinderace V, and I do like it quite a bit on Cinderace V has Welder. And Welder means you play a Welder, attach 2 energy, then you attach an energy from your hand, then you're going. You can go second, and on your first turn of the game, you're hitting 140 damage with Cinderace V. I like it. Not quite so easy to do, unfortunately, with Scizor. Possible, because you've got Metal Saucer, so what you would essentially have to do is go second, get 2 metal energy in a discard, draw 2 Metal Saucer before you got in the active, and then attach for the turn, get yourself in the active and go. It's a bit more awkward than using Cinderace, but it will work. But then what are you hitting for weakness? Gardevoir, yes, you will be getting Gardevoir V, not the V Max, but there are ways around it. But outside of that, not very much, unfortunately. It is just a little bit upsetting, to be frank with you. So you're not hitting much for weakness, so you're basically getting non-V, non-GXs, they'll be going down to this. Anything that is weak, I mean, even if anyone's playing Gardevoir and Sylveon, which is the Fairy Tag team, well, one of them anyway, you'll be getting a 1-hit KO on them. You're not getting VMAXs like Gardevoir VMAX, you're a 40 damage short, but then again, with a single Berserker, you would actually be getting the KO there. So that's something to bear in mind. So, I mean, look, it's a decent Pokemon, but I don't think it is a Pokemon around which to build a deck. I think it is largely playable for the first attack, and I think that if you end up against a deck that is really relying on special energy and tools, you can use a couple attacks from Scizor to basically lock them out the game, or at least significantly slow them down, before bringing in a real attacker and finishing them off. And for that reason, I'm giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. Maybe somebody out there is using Berserker to do 110 damage per turn while discarding special energy and tools, but I really don't think we're in a format at the moment where that's actually a viable way to play, so I think we'll leave it for today. But I'd love to know what you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, me nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.